This is the HeadRush Podcast with Paul Frase and Corey Berry.
Welcome to the HeadRush Podcast. Yes, I'm Paul Frase, and I played 11 years in the NFL. Why do I still have to read that? And
Because they don't know.
and our co-host, Corey Berry, rode professional rodeo for 9 years.
Bucking horses.
He was a bronc rider.
A bareback bronc.
Not a saddle?
No.
What's the difference? Why?
One has a saddle, one has a suitcase handle.
Okay. Well, why is one harder than the other?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bareback riding's harder than saddle, but saddle is pretty dang dangerous itself because saddle, you got stirrups, you got a saddle, and you got a rein. Bareback riding, you got a suitcase handle.
I don't know why you guys just don't ride the horse as it is supposed to be ridden.
We do, but some of them horses just can't be ridden.
All right. At the HeadRush Podcast, we talk about everything related to brain trauma and brain health and wellness. We talk about traumatic brain injury, TBI, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, TES, which is the closest that you can be diagnosed to CTE in the living while your heart is still beating. And Corey actually is diagnosed TES. And we talk about repeated head impacts, RHI. We cover how traumatic brain injuries can and will cause mental health issues such as depression, addiction, lack of executive function, memory loss, even suicide ideation, as well as degenerative neurological issues. These symptoms can be found on the Mayo Clinic and Boston University websites under symptoms of CTE. Our mantra is how to cope and find hope. We focus our energy on finding therapies and sharing hope through education and by raising awareness. And please help us raise awareness by liking, sharing, commenting,
Reviewing,
subscribing. We do have a YouTube channel. We need to boost those views up. So welcome to the HeadRush Podcast. Corey, you want to?
Yeah, our next guest, well, I'm going to tease him a little bit, but today our guest, he has walked the walk, and now he uses his experience to bring hope and awareness to recovery from TBI. He is a former 4-year starter linebacker with the Oregon State University. We know. And a Hall of Fame 4-sport athlete at Sierra High School in San Mateo, California. During his time playing football, Rico sustained over 15,000 subconcussive hits and 25 plus concussions. Rico felt that he had survived his time playing with no major lasting impact to himself until March of 2021. It's always that 10-year mark, ain't that what they say?
It catches us, all
when
of us.
He experienced, what's that word, systemic?
Yes.
Failure of his brain and body affecting mood behavior, sleep, cognitive, and physical functions. Within a 6-month period, Rico's decline was aggressive and severe, with referrals to multiple medical specialists and to hospitals to try to determine the root cause, which with every symptom tracked back to neuro in nature.
Amazing. Shocking.
In July of 2021, Rico was enrolled in an open study at the University of Utah on the use of red light for football players with traumatic brain injury and or suspected CTE. Though the use of red light over the past 5 years and other supplements or protocols, Rico is now functionally operating at or near his symptom state. Pre-symptom state. Rico now uses his brokenness to be of service to others in the TBI and CTE community, offering support guidance for persons with brain injury and their caregivers based on his shared experience. Rico, welcome. I'm sorry to give you a hard time about being a Oregon Beaver. You know, there's plenty there's plenty of platypuses up in Oregon, but I'm an Oregon Duck fan.
Let him speak.
Yeah, I understand that you're poking a little fun, but at that time you guys were 1-10, so it was literally the battle of the toilet bowl until Phil Knight decided to come in and drop suitcases of money on your program.
So they had no recollection of playing a 12th game during that time, huh?
No,
it was always
No, not until Phil Knight stepped in, and now we're at the semifinals going.
Well, talk to me. You talk about this guy coming in and throwing money at a college game.
Nike.
That doesn't. Oh, well,
Phil Knight.
He's not supposed to throw money at the organization. I mean,
he doesn't. He throws it at the university.
Oh, did he?
He
throw
was also a coach at the university.
Is he involved with the NIL too?
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
And I'm also
they have one of the largest NILs in college football.
Do they really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a track coach. The founder of Nike was a track coach for the Ducks.
Okay.
And Prefontaine, Steve Prefontaine.
Exactly.
And that's how the tennis shoe came to be.
Is it? All right.
Well, we don't want to lose you guys any viewers I know there's a lot of Duck fans out there, so I'll stop with that. We've already been dripping with enough sarcasm too, so we'll roll off the football time.
It's time to get serious.
When we talk to Rico, I want our listeners to also understand that he just attended the Global Summit in San Francisco at UCSF.
Right. It was an amazing experience. 8 hours. It was just back-to-back heavy hitters in the neuro world. A lot of our great advocates, not CTE deniers. So it was wonderful to have that much support in one room of researchers, caregivers, and also CTE warriors. So really exciting time.
Both of my neurologists were there.
Wow. That's impressive. There were a lot of the top dogs there, so you're in good hands, obviously.
Dr. Tanner, one of the speakers, is my top neurologist.
Nice. Very nice.
And then,
yeah, it was like the Pro Bowl of neurologists. It was really impressive. I mean, Dr. Cantu, Dr. McKee, and many others, Dr. Cummings. I mean, it was pretty amazing.
That must have been amazing because obviously, as far back as Mike Webster and Dr. Bennett Amalo, and why am I saying Amalo Bennett? It's Bennett Amalo, and he was ostracized, right? He was. They tried to, yeah, and what an amazing turnaround to a couple. I guess one of the first protocols for CTE awareness it was announced. Do you remember the details of that?
It was with the one of the footballers associations. I want to say maybe
Canada.
UK. Yeah, UK or Canada, and it was just trying to limit contact and hits to try to prevent CTE in the future. So knowing that we're now, which is a big shift because even the organization that hosted this event originally was called Concussion Legacy Foundation, and they said that their rebrand to the CTE and Concussion Foundation was to recognize that this is not a concussion-based disease or condition, that it's a repetitive hit injury condition. So limiting those hits in all contact sports, whether you're a bronc rider, a football player, the gamut of them.
Player.
I have seen hockey players. I have had sailors, in the little dinghy boats that have been hit by the mast or the bumping of the water. Water polo players, cheerleaders, you name it. There's a wide range of us, unfortunately, that are dealing with the aftermath of repetitive hit injury.
So, Rico, you talk about 15,000 impacts or repeated head impacts, right? when I started talking about that, I thought it was incredulous to say I've been hit in the head, 8 to 10,000 times. This was years ago, and I was like, and nobody would take you seriously. But now we're talking 15,000,
20,000 for you.
Well, if you say 1,000 to 1,500 hits a year of 20 years of organized football, of course, yeah. So it is incredulous how many times that we have had impacts.
For our listeners, what does incredulous mean?
Incredible. It's incredulous. Well, Rico's a lot smarter than both of us put together.
So you're just using the word without knowing.
No, I don't.
Remarkable would be remarkable.
Or incredible or remarkable. So I have, an idea of it.
The $50,000 word.
You bust my bat.
I can only thank my understanding of that because of Sister McCabe at Sarah High School, who was my honors AP English teacher, and she was honest, so she made sure that we learned proper English in her class.
That's great.
It was literally her life.
That's awesome. We're going to get into it, and sorry for such a long lead-in. I don't know what got into us today. This episode of the HeadRush Podcast is brought to you by our personal doctor and team of doctors, Dr. Mizelle DeMayo, and she's with the Paradise Behavioral Health, and we are in the
Brainwell program, which is also part of the Millennium Health Center. Dr. Mark Gordon, you've seen him on Joe Rogan and even on our show, the HeadRush Podcast, and hormones. And Mizelle is awesome. We love her.
She's our doctor of psychiatry. She works the Mark Gordon program with the hormones, and she adds her twist of genetics, and it basically is melding two wonderful mediums together, and we're getting great help from Dr. Mizelle DeMayo.
So please check out her website at paradisebehavioral.com. Look up the Brainwell program. Get involved.
She's sponsoring us. They're sponsoring us for the next year, so we are excited to have them on board and shout the good news to everybody that is watching these broadcasts. So,
is she helping you, Paul?
Absolutely.
She's helping me. So go check her out. ParadiseBehavioralHealth.com.
I want to hear your story. What happened to you that you had actually had to search out help from symptoms, or obviously start with your career and.
Talk about Sierra High School, because you played against us, I'm sure. But back in them days, Bishop was probably not as good as my day.
Bishop?
Yeah. I was in the Catholic School League. So Sarah High School is part of the Bay Area Catholic School League. It's
is that a Catholic School League?
Yeah, it's probably one of the top conferences in the nation. Our program itself is usually running for a state title, and there's several other schools in San Francisco and in the Bay Area elsewhere that are pretty prominent. Sarah High School has a long history. John Robinson, Lynn Swan, Barry Bonds, a guy named Tom Brady you might have heard of. They all went to my high school. So it's one of those schools that people go to play sports and hopefully get recruited. So I grew up in a small ag town. Corey, you would have fit right in. We had the rodeo, Half Moon Bay, California. Yeah. So it's nice ag community. So I obviously wanted to try to play football at a higher level. So I came across the hill. It's about an hour drive every morning to Sarah, and played. My first football was in high school. I had never played youth football at all. So that was kind of my first introduction. Started 4 years there, finished out pretty strong. I was all state and one of the top rated linebackers in the nation, blue chip wise, behind a guy named Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So pretty good company with that. and really looked at a bunch of different schools. But when I did my trips, I had one at U of O, but felt like Oregon State was my best fit. And so I signed with them. And one of the reasons was I didn't want to sit on the bench. I wanted to play right away. And they had told me, you come here, you're going to probably start 4 years. And that's what I did. So as a 205-pound inside linebacker, I started my freshman year and played all 4 years there. So I played and started 4 years at Oregon State. Unfortunately, between my high school and my college time, high school, I probably had about at least 6 to 8 concussions that I can recall. And then in college is where I really had some serious ones. I had one against Cal where the skybox saw me running around in circles in the middle of the field. So they called somebody to pull me out. And when I went to the sideline, I thought the team doctor was my dad, and I was telling him about my pretty shoes. So, yeah, it was a bad deal in that regard. And though overall, I did have some head pressure. I had some headaches. I mean, I was taking 1,200 milligrams of Advil a day to try to stop the headaches. Didn't know that was masking my concussions, but I after I finished school, I really didn't feel like I had any ongoing symptoms or issues. So fast forward a bit, right around 2021, I started experiencing these cascading effects from, mood, behavior.
How old were you in 2021?
I was 47. So it came on. I've talked to a lot of CTE warriors and their families. And what's interesting is many of us have a shared story that some sort of traumatic event can kind of trigger an initial cascading. And that could be a bankruptcy, a divorce, financial issues, etc. And at that time, my wife was in the ICU for 17 days with a 1% chance of living. And so I think that whether it short-circuited my brain or caused a stressor overload, but somewhere shortly after that is when I really started experiencing all these issues. The first things that came up for me immediately was this severe depression. The depression was dark. It was overwhelming, constant. I just felt incredibly sad. I didn't have a reason that I could point to that was making me sad, but it was ever present. And then from that, the suicidality kind of drifted in. And, I tell people it was like there was an angel and a devil on my shoulders.
Did you ever have a suicide ideation before then?
No, never. And I also didn't have any depression. I am kind of a guy like you guys, Gen X dripping with sarcasm and like to be the guy that's making jokes all the time. So it was a total change in my character. Even my kids were like, Dad, why don't you smile anymore? Why aren't you happy? I mean, they didn't know if it was something they did. They didn't know what was going on with me. I remember distinctly, I would have to cross the Sacramento River on this bridge every morning to go to work. And I remember crying in the car as I started approaching that bridge because it was always this strong push to just want to pull the wheel right and go off the bridge. And I knew that if I made it across that bridge, I was going to live today. And that was kind of, something that was really scary to deal with. And again, as athletes, our body, we're really in tune with it, but we also like to pride ourselves on being able to manage our mental toughness and work through things. And, and so I was trying to do that, but it just was getting progressively worse. And, so with that, I noticed my sleep quality started failing me. And, I was getting some physical symptoms. I was starting to drop things a lot. I was having a hand tremor. And it just all started turning the wheels with me. Tinnitus got really bad, light and sound sensitivity, explosive anger. So at one point when the darkness got really heavy, I found a brain injury group online, and I posted my story and just, said, hey, ex college football player, I've had this many hits, this many concussions. Something's not right. Does this sound like it could be CTE or TBI? And, people in the group start saying, this sounds very common to what a lot of people with suspected CTE are dealing with. And fortunately, that very same day that I posted, one of the members of the group told me that there was this red light study that was being done at University of Utah for football players, and that they were actively recruiting. So as soon as I heard about that, I jumped on the opportunity.
If you've been told it's all in your head, but deep down you know something is wrong, listen closely. Brain fog, depression, anxiety, irritability, even PTSD. These are not just mental issues. They may be signals of neuroinflammation and hormonal disruption, root causes that traditional medicine often ignores. At the Millennium Health Centers, founded by Dr. Mark Gordon, they have helped veterans, athletes, and everyday people restore brain function using a medical process called the Millennium Protocol. Take their free brain health assessment at tbihelpnow.org and discover if inflammation, not weakness, is holding you back. You're not broken, you're unbalanced, and balance can be restored. One of the things that we do here is we are searching out modalities or therapies that might work for brain injury, because we know there's not a magic pill, and we know there's probably never going to be a magic pill to stop the inflammation in the brain. Obviously there's nutraceuticals and neurotropics that we can take to help in the supplements. I know you're big into the supplementation, but one of the huge things is we always are searching for a therapy. And we know from our search that some therapies work for some people, some therapies don't work or as well. We had a conversation, meaning myself, you and Corey, last week, and I'm excited to hear about what you have to say. So we're always searching for that a therapy that can help our brothers and sisters with TBI. What therapy did you find?
Before we go to talking about therapy,
Yeah.
we got two football players here.
Right.
A major player in California.
Yeah, well,
then went to Oregon. You as an NFL, this new study that came out of Harvard, I want to talk about that with you too.
Do we want to get into? Well,
yeah. We got two of them. Let's get into the weeds. You read the study.
Yes. Well,
Have you read it, Rico?
Yes, I have. I've had some online conversation about it as well. It definitely raised flags and concerns with a lot of people that are struggling with suspected CTE. That's
yeah. I think yeah. So the study that Corey speaks of, it was a study that came out, and they were debunking. Not the myth, because it's factual that suicide rates have raised in players, specifically, I think, NFL players, since 2010, exponentially. And so their study was based on, possible reasons that could be. I personally, so the possible reasons are, concussions and CTE has been in the limelight and the media, and they actually used this word. They said, well, it could be a copycat situation where guys are hearing that, and they're. Let's face it, if somebody commits suicide, they have no hope, and they feel it's their only way out. So
yeah, it was extremely insulting,
right?
Because you're talking about. We now know that we've got military veterans. We're losing 22 a day It's not just athletes. You know, the blast exposure is causing the same kind of issues. And you're taking people, you know, you and I, Paul, we didn't get to, I can't speak for Corey, but you and I didn't get to being at the level that we played, being, you know, slouches. You know, we're top 1% of 1% people. We're high performers. And in fact, I would argue that unfortunately with this condition, most of the people that I know are overachiever, high performer people. They had this many hits and this much exposure because they were practicing all the time, because they were playing at higher levels. You know, this is not a mindset or a type of person that is prone to fail or to give up. And, you know, I can tell you my own experience that I never had any of this suicidality. I never had any of these issues. And I think as we get into my story, we'll also see that I don't have them now. So that tells you that this was a triggered mechanism of, you know, the brain issue. It had nothing to do with CTE, you know, prevalence or publicity. And I think that's insulting to the families that I deal with and you guys see on a daily basis. We have so many Warriors families that are part of the communities that are trying to enlighten people because they don't want another family to go through what they did. And every story is very similar. Their person, their loved one that was never their intent. They did not want that to be the solution, but they're dealing with a medical community that when you go and visit, they're going to tell you, well, we can't diagnose this in the living, and it's a neurodegenerative condition, so there's nothing we can do for you. It's eventually going to take your life. And, you know, the best we can do is maybe manage your symptoms for you.
Well,
and that is, I mean, if we want to talk about the accountability or the why, when you stack those things up against a person that is already struggling to understand the condition and figure out how they can have some hope, that's not a very hopeful triad of things that working together, or I should say working against you.
Well, and I look back at every release that specific group, it's a Harvard medical something for football
before
players.
you go there, you got to remember Trump took all their funding.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
where did they get the funding to do this study?
Our friends down in 500 Park Avenue or whatever. But I've never, if you really look back, I've never seen an article come out saying, oh, NFL players are more susceptible to dementia or are more susceptible to this or that, or and heart disease. And, you know, 4 or 5 years when they were trying to, they literally came out and said on an average, NFL players are actually more healthy than the general public. And I'm like, there has not been one article that has actually been negative towards, you know, that the activity of hitting your head over and over and over and over and over and over again.
If the average NFL player is healthier than the general population, then why is the average age of death 20 years below the American national average?
Exactly.
So the national average for a U.S. male is 78 years old.
Yep.
The average age of death for an NFL player is 58 years.
58.
You beat it.
Yeah.
So
60. Yay me.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I have problems with those. So some of these studies that are coming out.
Well, to Corey's point, just to build on it a little more, is right before the two studies you're referencing came out of Harvard, and I am going to pick on Harvard directly because this is all the facts and you can look it up. NIH pulled all of their research funding, and Harvard actually put a blast out from their neuroscience department that they had zero funding for projects. Shortly thereafter, these couple doctors that you're talking about that were the leads on this research, if you look at their disclosures, these were meta-analysis. So these were just cherry picking what they wanted to include into the studies, number one. Number two, they have conflicts. They have NFL directly supported funding channels with them. And, I think that's what we have to be wary of. There's a lot of manipulation here, because the way I look at it right now, and the way this should really be looked at when you're dealing particularly with pro sports and even with the military, is if we make this a mental health issue, or we place it in some sort of spectrum that the individual somehow either has some association, either genetically or their mental health or what have you, then what we're doing is we're putting the onus on the individual that this is somehow caused by something within them. Whereas what we really need to do with CTE, it's a repetitive hit injury. So that means that it's employment related. Prove to me otherwise, right? That means if you're in the military, you have this succession of blast exposure. The military is responsible and has a duty of care for you. The NFL and all other contact sports, it's no different. Even the NCAA. If this was caused by your employment, then your employer should be responsible for your medical and your care. And that's not happening.
It's a simple equation in my mind, and just as simple as you just explained it. I appreciate it.
I'm sure the NFL has that little closure in their agreements now and contracts.
The kids are signing. They're signing. Go ahead.
Yeah, look at another repetitive injury, carpal tunnel. How many employees, because of typing on a keyboard for 20 years, get carpal tunnel surgery and it's covered under workers' comp by their employer? That's a repetitive hit injury or a repetitive use injury. And it's the same as what we're dealing with CTE and repetitive hits to the brain.
Really quick story, kind of along those lines. We were talking to, the 1,000 to 1,500 hits per year. If as you play football, that's kind of taken very commonly. And there was a doctor that basically had been with the Dr. Maroon, and he said publicly on a podcast that the new data. We put the mouth guards in, and the new data is only like 350 hits a year. And I was thinking, okay, you just told me instead of I don't have to have 1,000 to 1,500 hits a year, I only have to have 350 hits a year, and this causes mental health issues and causes TBI. It causes white matter damage in my brain, and it causes possible CTE. Is that what you're saying, Doc? Because you just debunked, the 1,000 or 1,500 hits a year by saying only I was like that. Yeah.
You just lowered the threshold. That really didn't work in your favor.
No, exactly.
If you watch the documentary League of Denial, I think Dr. Maroon is featured in that. So
yeah,
you know what we call him, right?
No.
All right, we're trying to be nice.
All right,
moron.
We're going back to what therapy have you found that has helped you? Please, pray tell.
Tell us about it. Preach it.
All right. So as I was getting to, with that group I was in, I found out about this University of Utah study. I wrote a one-page manifesto to the lead that was doing the recruiting for that and just begged him to get in. It's a gentleman named Dr. Larry Carr. He's an ex-BYU Hall of Fame linebacker. And he was patient one doing red light, which is really cool. So he was having CTE issues back a few years prior to the study starting, and went to Ann McKee at Boston U and said, hey, I think I'm meeting the criteria for this. I'm having some issues. Do you know of anything to help the living? And she said, you might want to check out some work by Dr. Margaret Nazer with the VA. They're doing some red light study. And so he got into that and had some really significant improvements with using what's called photobiomodulation. And what that is it's the shining of red light through the skull. So they actually put a headset on you, and these red light penetrate the skull, and they activate the mitochondria and help them to produce extra energy and power. And what that does is it reduces neuroinflammation, it reduces this hyperimmune response, it creates more energy, which helps prevent this mitochondrial dysfunction that's at the root of many neuroconditions. It helps with clearing waste, oxygenation, and a host of other benefits for the brain.
This is all clinically proven information.
100% absolute.
It's not just anecdotal.
Not anecdotal. There's over 5,000 clinical trials and studies on the use of photobiomodulation. And really, as you mentioned, Paul, you said there isn't any magic pill and there isn't one thing that we know works for everyone. Well, I'm going to challenge that a little bit, because the way red light works is on, a component of the cells, the mitochondria, which is within all of us. And the biology, this mechanism and the biology of it says that it's going to do something. It's going to create some sort of performance or gains for you, because it is helping these mitochondria do their job better. So that's kind of the layman version. I'm not the scientist that I can go into all the details of the chemical process or the mechanisms, but that in a nutshell is what it does. Now, I can speak to my experience with it. And what I will tell you is, my symptoms were very bad starting about March 2021, as I said. And by July of 2021, I was enrolled in this program, and I had to go to Salt Lake City, Utah. I was living in Sacramento area at the time. And my wife did not think I was going to get on that plane. I mean, she just did not think it was going to be possible, because I was just in such bad shape. I could not handle being in social environments. I had severe fight or flight, light and sound sensitivity, the anger and disorientation, cognitive function. I mean, trying to get through an airport is not an easy task with a good brain, but a broken brain in the height of all that trauma is asking a lot. So I did make it. They did some baseline scans with me. It was a partnership with the VA in Salt Lake City. So what they did is they did an MRI with DTI. So they went through and scanned our brains for the baselines. They did a cognitive assessment. They did mood and behavioral assessments. They did a sleep evaluation, and then they did some cognitive and physical testing. And this was all probably 4 hours in a day. And it was pretty rigorous doing all that at once. As you guys know, when your neuro battery is kind of already limited, I tell people, if your brain was about your iPhone battery, you'd always be in the red, and so this took a lot out of me. I mean, those 4 hours cost me probably a week and a half in bed when I got home. But, so that was on Saturday. Sunday, they gave me the red light device and showed me how to use it. Very simple. You put it on for 20 minutes. I've got mine here, so I'm not going to plug it in, but I will show you real quick.
And this is a one and done, or this is continuous?
Yeah, so this is the newer version of the headset. Mm-hmm. And so as you see, there's a nasal piece here that goes in, and then there's a battery setup that you connect to this. Unfortunately, I didn't pull that out, so we won't see it actually lit up. But as you can see, there's diodes on each part of the head, the prefrontal cortex, and then the nose piece actually shines on the bottom of the prefrontal cortex. So it gets up underneath there.
Up
So
the nasal passage.
Yeah, so you get a really good coverage on the prefrontal cortex, where most of us have our damage. So my clinical version of that set was a little more janky than that, but nonetheless, it worked under the same mechanisms. And what we were instructed to do was take it and use it for 20 minutes in the morning when we wake up 5 days a week. So I would take Wednesday and Sunday off and do it on the other days.
Millions live with depression, anxiety, fatigue, or emotional chaos, believing it's permanent. It's not. The Millennium Protocol targets hidden inflammation and hormone disruption caused by trauma, stress, and time. Created by Dr. Mark Gordon, featured multiple times on Joe Rogan and the HeadRush Podcast, plus the documentary movie Quiet Explosions, this approach has transformed lives once written off as hopeless. Visit tbihelpnow.org and take the 10-question brain health assessment. Healing is possible. Your story isn't over. Let's begin again with your brain.
Tell us what happened. You were talking. You told us the 4 or 5 things you were dealing with.
Well, not just what happened, but walk us through it. You're talking about 2021. This is 2026.
Mm-hmm.
You just had the helmet on your head, so you're still using this. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So what happened is I started wearing it, followed the instructions, went home. What's great is this is a treatment you can do at home. It's portable. You can bring it with you, non-invasive. There are 0 known side effects from using red light, by the way. So there's no, like pharma and stuff. Many people with CTE or suspected CTE or TBIs are dealing with the side effects of the medications. 0 side effects involved with photobiomodulation. So I started using it, and about 2 weeks in, I was in the shower, and my wife at the time, she goes, "Hey, I think this thing's working." And I went, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, you're singing in the shower again, and you haven't done that for a couple of years now."
Wow.
So I think I might be getting my old Rico back.
Hmm.
And it was just one of those examples that I was just really, really, I was like, huh. So I called Larry, Dr. Carr, and I said, is this supposed to work after 2 weeks? Because my wife says she's already seeing a change in my mood and behavior. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I started having some improvements at 2 weeks. And he goes, and then it just builds from there. And sure enough, about a month in, I was feeling really good. The light and sound sensitivity and other issues. I used to basically scare everybody away from the dinner table because the clanking on the plates, the loudness of having teenagers, I would just get really frustrated, and I'd look around and realize I was the only one left at the table when it all, when it was all done, because I just would get into that anger phase and, retreat to my bedroom, isolate, that kind of thing. And so with this, I was, re-engaging with my family. I started noticing symptom improvement. The tinnitus was not as bad. The head pressure started going down. I wasn't dropping things. Like I was literally dropping something in my kitchen almost every day. And, my grip, I was having issues. I was having tremors. Those things started resolving themselves. I had not mentioned earlier to you guys, but I saw like 13 specialists during this time that I was prior to the red light study. And I did a sleep study, and I was only getting 12 minutes of REM sleep a night. I had complex sleep apnea, which is means you stop breathing as well, which is neuro-related. I had tinnitus, which I went and saw an ear, nose, and throat doctor. They eliminated hearing loss, structural damage. And again, that pointed back to neuro. I had vestibular and ocular issues that tied back to neuro. So virtually, like I said, 12 or 13 specialists for all these, 50 plus symptoms and issues I was having, and every one of them tied back to neuro in nature. So again, when I hear that CTE can't be diagnosed in the living, I'm like, take a look at my scans and take a look at my symptom list and tell me that, the fact that it covers mood, behavior, sleep, cognitive, and physical elements, and they all tend to tie back to neuro in nature. If you can't call it this, what else are you going to call it? Because it's not Alzheimer's, Yeah. So,
and that's what ENT said. Mine's all nerve damage from the repeated head impacts, my vestibular, my depth perception, my balance, head knowing what my feet are doing, my tremors, my excuse my French, my bowel movements. It's all related to the repeated head impacts. I went to the ER when? 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Didn't I? Wasn't it about 2 weeks ago I went?
Yes.
And, I don't go to the ER because I get overstimulated. And the bright lights and hello. And they did a CT scan. They did blood work. They checked everything. And the doctor literally came in and said, this is symptoms of CTE.
yeah.
And then you go to the orthopedic surgeon when he did the PET bone scan on me, and it showed inflammation down my spine, all through my head and everything. He goes, this is all repeated head impacts. So by some doctor at Harvard, I wonder what Chris Nowinski thinks is his degree at Harvard now. If he would be proud to go back to
He's
WWE.
at Boston. He's at Boston University right now, so he has nothing to do with that studies.
I wonder if he'd go back to being Chris Harvard.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the great thing, Corey, is, we have probably similar lists, it sounds like, and I think these are also very prevalent. So for your listeners, it's important that we're not just looking at mood and behavior things, because often that sends you down the path of mental health and counselors, which are not equipped to deal with us. And for the CTE person, you lose hope because you feel like I know something's wrong with me and this is not it. And I would argue to say that a certain portion of the CTE suicides are people that got gaslit and we're not given the hope that to understand really what they were dealing with. And so, that's kind of the thing that I want to leave behind is, look at the symptoms, get the specialist to help validate that it's neuro and condition. And then if it is a neuro situation, then look at your repetitive hit injury history. And if you are somebody that had a lot of repetitive hit exposure and everything's pointing back to neuro, you do got to take a strong stance that you may be dealing with this.
Now, are you clinically diagnosed TES like myself?
Yeah. I am tests with probable CTE because that's as a flow chart through tests. Then you kind of then get the, for lack of words, probability that you might be CTE, or what your likelihood of CTE is. And I'm at that highest level of the club, I guess.
Dr. Jeremy Tanner did me the same. I'm TES probable CTE.
Yeah, like we talked about, when it's also supported by the scans, my scans, as Paul mentioned earlier, white matter intensities, cavum, septum, pellucidum, enlarged ventricles, signs of ischemic stroke. So vascular constriction's pretty common with this. My cerebellum, which should be look like a nice oak tree with a lot of branches, has very few. It's been pruned down, unfortunately. And one neurologist that didn't know my history that saw my scan, especially the frontal cortex, the left side has been pulverized, thought I was victim of a gunshot wound to the head. So, I
saw that scan.
Yeah, the cumulative, when you look at all of that again with the symptom list.
Can you put that scan up, Lexi? The brain scan?
It could be a pretty dire situation, unfortunately.
So,
but
let's get back to the butt.
Yeah, let's talk about.
Show the picture.
Now that we
can't yet.
Oh, she can. Okay.
She'll do it in post-production.
We've established that it's a pretty bad situation, both with how I was physically responding, reacting to my world, and living with all the 55 plus symptoms, 50 symptoms, and also the scans validating this. The study, as I went forward, I kept seeing improvements. And, at 8 months, 2 months, 8 weeks, they sent us back to Utah to do a follow-up. And by 2 months, I was feeling about a 50% improvement. So I was actually pretty excited to get back to them. I wanted to take that flight versus not knowing if I was going to make it. I was 100% confident I would get on that plane, have no issues getting there, and that I was going to slay the testing. And on every single level, grip strength, reaction time, physical testing, cognitive testing, and also the evaluations they do for mood and behavior, everything showed what they called clinically significant improvements. And it wasn't just for me. My cohort was 50 ex-football players, college and NFL. And the group as a whole showed these same clinically significant gains in all the areas that I mentioned. So it was really exciting to be a part of that. And in fact, when I got out to about a year, I was probably 70 to 80% improved on my overall symptoms and issues, which is pretty amazing, especially for anybody that is dealing with this. I don't know of any drug that's come remotely close to that. In fact, most people with CTE are usually dealing with anywhere I know of 3 to 12 pharmaceuticals to help them manage symptoms, really. I mean, they're on sleep stuff, they're on antidepressants, they're on things for anger, and so on and so forth. Whereas, currently I'm on zero pharma.
I wish I could say that. I'm on the new deck.
It's not to take away from anybody. I mean, I think that you do what you have to do, and you look at it like, this is the Band-Aid to carry you forward. But, hopefully there are things like red light and supplements that will start as you attack your symptoms and your underlying condition, more importantly, that you'll be able to start rolling some of those pharmaceuticals back. Because as we know, many of them use artificial ways to penetrate the blood-brain barrier, which can cause brain bleeds and other pretty significant side effects. So, yeah.
Now, we've been hearing photomodulation.
Modulation
For the last 45 minutes.
Photobiomodulation.
For the last 45 minutes.
Yes.
Rico's been a huge part of this in helping others. Out of all the studies and everything you've read, where's the best place to get your device and how do they do it?
There's a lot of different devices, yes?
Okay, so that's a great point. There are a lot of different devices out there. You can certainly get red light pads off of Amazon and places like that. There is only one company, though, that has been behind this research, that has their own researchers in-house, and that is used in the majority of these red light studies. And that's a company called Vielight, Vielight, out of Toronto, Canada. And they are the ones behind my study. And there's 5 or 6 other major studies that involve veterans, firefighters, and other focal groups that have had great results. Now, the other piece, which you guys would be interested in, is the results were so great with my study that they went, wonder how this would work in active football players. And so they actually did a follow-up study behind mine with the BYU football team. And it was a double-blind placebo study. They had 22 of BYU's starters, and they had 11 in a sham device and 11 using the Vielight NeuroGamma, which is the same device I used. They scanned them with MRI with DTI at the beginning of the season and also at the completion of the season. And what they found was pretty incredible. So every single player, whether they had concussion or not, that had the sham device had significant signs of neuroinflammation in their brain throughout the entire brain. The players that had used the red light device over the course of the season had no signs of neuroinflammation in the brain. And that can be found online. The Vielight site actually has those studies, and they have some of the visuals of the MRI with DTI, but it's pretty amazing to see one that's completely red, lit up, of those guys that didn't have the device, and then completely clear MRI with DTI on those that did. So we're now looking at something that can not only help people that have an existing head trauma that they're trying to recover, but we potentially have something that's a neuroprotectant for active athletes. So, this changes the game because, Guardian caps, Q collars, those kinds of things don't stop brain slosh and they don't stop the neuroinflammation. And this actually, the biological mechanism of this actually can help with, as you hear, eliminating that neuroinflammation.
So your executive function pre-red light therapy and post-red light therapy.
Wow, it was horrible. I literally lived with Post-it notes everywhere, 150, 200 Post-it notes. I was in I'd be in my office and people would walk in and they kind of look at it, but they wouldn't say anything. And that was just normal. That was my new brain. I mean, everything was on the exterior and I had it kind of classified by things I have to do today, things that are related to work and things that are related to home. And as I completed things, I took to stick them off and I threw it in the trash, but that was my short-term memory or my brain function. There was no brain coherency whatsoever, unfortunately. And it was getting really worrisome because I was, concerned I wasn't going to be able to work. I was worried that it would continue to decline. And as I said, I had some indicators of early Parkinson's. I had REM sleep behavior disorder. I had tremors. I had aphasia. I was losing the sense of smell, which are all attributable to, Parkinson's. And so I was starting to head down that path. And
so now,
as I said, now I don't have those. I don't have the tremors. I haven't had a REM sleep behavior incident in probably 2.5 years. This is supposed to be an incurable condition. So, and it's documented. I had 2 sleep studies. So I bring the receipts on everything I'm saying because I have baselines before I did red light and I have data after red light that show the difference. Like my REM sleep, I was only getting 13 minutes. I'm getting right around 2 hours right now, which is what you're supposed to get. And so that's a pretty significant bump.
Stop. CTE.org proudly sponsors the HeadRush Podcast.
Karen and Doug Ziegel, they are founders. Karen founded the Patrick Grisha CTE Awareness Foundation, and they are one of the most comprehensive websites regarding repeated head impacts and chronic traumatic encephalopathy. They work with legislature. They've been doing this for about 10 years.
They're the grandparents of CTE in my book. So don't knock it. StopCTE.org. Let me ask you a question, Rico.
Yeah.
You're still using that gamma red light. There's no cure for this disease. If you did not use that, would your inflammation take back over?
It's a great question. And so what this is doing again is it's continually supporting the mitochondrial function. So they actually, with Larry Carr, who I talked about earlier, when they did his study, they actually took the red light away from him for 2 months and he began to regress. And so that tells you that this definitely has a direct effect on all of these types of function and performance gains that I'm seeing. And so when our study was done, it was supposed to be a 1-year study. They expanded it to 5 years because they had such incredible results with everybody that was involved. But at the 1-year mark, they pulled us all in and told us that if we wanted, we could give the devices back. And not a single person that was involved in the study gave their device back. So that tells you something.
Yeah.
And for me, there's no way I would not use it at this point. It's so easy to do. You don't feel anything. You just wake up, you throw it on, you can look at your phone. I mean, most of us waste 20 minutes in the morning laying in bed anyway. So it's a really easy protocol to do. And like I said, I feel the benefits every single day. I used to have sundowning at like 1 PM. I make it till 8:30 at night now with no issues.
Got me beat. I get them earlier than 8. And the sense of smell, what smell? I can grab Clorox and go, don't smell it.
Yeah, that was me. And worse yet, I had like this weird aphasia that my nose was replacing like whatever, like if I smelled something bad, like a skunk or something, my brain would recall that, but then anything that smelled bad would smell like a skunk. So if I smelled an onion, it would smell like a skunk. It was like the weirdest, again, it's one of those neuro quirks, but it was pretty wild.
The only thing I can smell now is dog poop. When the dog poops in the house, it's like,
Can I get red light through sunlight?
You can. So you can get red light through sunlight. Obviously, the best time for that is early morning as the sun's coming up. However, the one thing is the sunlight is not going to penetrate your skull. And so the V light, one of the mechanisms is it's actually, as you saw, it's placed on the various portions of your brain called the default mode network. And so, and it's placed directly on the skin, and the power and frequency of it and spectrum of light is shown to penetrate the skull and get to the brain tissue. So if you go out in the sun, because I've had people ask, why do I have to do that? Why would I do this? Why would I just not sit in the sun? You're going to get the refraction, and you don't get the deep penetration into the tissue that you do with the red light device.
And quite frankly, our issues are in the brain, because when it's totally inflammation. We know that. I mean, I got hope watching. 47 is when my flatline, serotonin, everything went away, or I thought, and it's the same thing. And but I saw the movie Quiet Explosions a few years ago. I'm 60 now. I saw it probably 3.5, 4 years ago, and the whole thing about inflammation. How many years, after your last subconcussive hit, do they find interleukin 6, an inflammatory cytokine, right? Years and years and years, up to 17 years apparently. Anyway, right. But just seeing something like that and hearing about a therapy that you have experienced yourself, is like, okay, there's hope. There's a possible way out, or a possible therapy that's going to help me.
Well, and that's what I think is great about the movie Quiet Explosion, is the movie Concussed, my wife cried. But you know what? They needed to show the cold, hard reality of this disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no hope in that movie.
Right.
This is what happens. This is what trashes you. If you don't believe me, read this book from Brandy Winans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whose husband, Jeff Winans, died of it. Mm-hmm. So I forgot what I was going to say, Dan.
The hope you get with seeing something like,
like Quiet Explosions.
Right.
Is now you got something that goes, shoot, that sounds like me. I mean, we had Andrew Marr on our podcast, who's part of Quiet Explosions. And what's he say? It's life or death for him now on his diet and his protocol. It's life or death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's so strict. He's so strict about it,
Yeah, here's the great thing is I think that my personal gains, I mean, I've done a lot of public speaking now. I go around and speak to doctors and sports performance people. I've spoke at other different events about my story and my shared experience. And, people that know me have seen this just incredible recovery from where I was and where I am. And now, fortunately, my testing and medical support, that I did have this drastic improvement. And again, I was not taking any pharmaceuticals. So I tell people I'm kind of like an open source, like Elon Musk did with Tesla. I'm giving away, that I had these baselines and I have the finished product, and that the main thing I was doing was red light.
Well,
now that being Oh, go ahead.
No, don't.
I was just going to say that being said, once it gets you to a stable point, I didn't have the suicidality. I didn't have the explosive anger. My cognitive is working extremely well. I mean, I had my best year. I'm in sales, and I had my best year of sales last year, ever. And I've been in it for 30 years. And I think it's just, I'm very sharp. I do a lot of presentations, and I'm able to stay on top of my game. But, once I got it manageable, because that's the hardest thing, as you guys know, is once your symptoms just feel so overwhelming and the neuro fatigue, and you lose hope, and then your family is getting disrupted and they're wondering what's going on, and everybody's getting in this depression cycle. You just need a little glimmer of hope. And once I had the red light and I had the hope, I could build on that. And so from that, the shift was to supplements and diet. And as you guys said, one of the diets that I think if anybody with a neuro condition, whether it's Alzheimer's, CTE, TBI, post-concussion, Mediterranean diet is proven time and time again the best diet that's for anti-inflammatory and to keep your brain in a good place.
Right.
With that, I stopped eating after 5:30. Intermittent fasting has been shown to be very effective, getting your brain into ketosis, and also autophagy, which is the removal of zombie cells and clearing waste. That can help you when you're not sleeping well and you've got some waste buildup. This is another tool that helps get some of those zombie cells and waste out of your system. So that kind of combination has been very effective. And then supplement wise, for me, I do some real tried and trues that you'll hear across the board. I'm not the methylene blue guy yet. I'm not willing to kind of go on the fringes, but high dose omega-3 has been shown to be extremely effective. CoQ10 is another solid that really helps boost the mitochondrial energy in the cells. Vitamin B complex is also a great one. Lion's mane mushroom is the most underrated supplement you can find. You get a lot of the same benefits that psychedelics are showing in
without the psychedelic part of it.
Without the psychedelic part, it's a culinary mushroom.
Right.
So, so those are a couple that I found that have been just incredible. And then for sleep, magnesium glycinate is a very tolerable and a well-absorbed form of magnesium. And magnesium is a driver. It's the silent driver behind a lot of our chemical processes in our body. And Americans, I think 60% of Americans are already deficient in it without having a brain injury. So getting that and the glycinate side of it really is good for your neurosystem. And I found that really helped with my sleep as well, and the lack of disruptions to sleep.
That's great.
I think we take everything he just suggested plus more.
Well, a little D3. I like that too. So
I do 20,000 units of D3 a day.
D3.
How about you?
Yeah, I've been doing 10,000.
10,000.
But look, we always end. You've already finished our ending, because we always end with a word of hope, and you just shared hope all over the place through diet, through recommendations, through the fact that
supplementation.
You've had your best year ever in sales. And how old are you now?
I'm 53.
You're 53 years old, and just
6 years into my symptoms. Yeah.
So 6 years ago, you couldn't even get on a plane. It was hard for you to go through the airport, and now you're number one, best in sales for your, what you do. So
what do you sell, Rico?
I do design build for a construction company, architectural firm. So we help people with buildings and their interiors. Yeah,
love that.
So it's not like me when I was out selling nuts, bolts, and oil. When I worked for Valvoline, I was top 80 in the nation.
Yeah, well, that's a specialty. That's a you both.
But now I couldn't sell ice to an Eskimo, where before that would be the easiest sell in the world.
We got to get you a little helmet.
We got to get me a gamma light.
I'm excited. We definitely need to hook you up, Corey, because I'm excited that you will become a disciple like me that red light works.
Great.
I'm all game.
Rico.
Thank you so much. And Rico, you have fun at the Super Bowl media walk tomorrow and enjoy your time there.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to be part of that Lee Steinberg Neuro Summit, so I'm really excited. So I'll send you guys some follow-up photos from that.
Please.
It'll be a great time, and hopefully we'll learn some more about some of the advances with CTE and healing the brain.
Excellent.
Well, have you seen that list that Lee Steinberg set down on all the people that's going to be there and different companies? Vilite's one of them, by the way.
Yeah. They're there. It's Lee has done this for over 20 years, and he brings the best of the best together. And he's really been an agent that gave back, and is really about helping the players and helping save football too. So he's an incredible person, and this is my first one, so I'm really excited to be a part of that.
We heard him speak
at the
Mac
Parkman, Global Summit last about 7 months ago. So, yep. Appreciate it. I'm having some CTE moments right now.
Me too. I need a break.
Rico, thank you very much.
We
look forward to the next time we have you on, and I look forward to testing out some photobiomodulation.
Awesome.
Hook us up.
Thank you, gentlemen, for everything you do. As part of the CTE advocacy community, there's a lot of eyes on you. We all appreciate how hard you guys work for us, and that you're getting the word out, and you're, more importantly, removing the stigma about CTE.
Yep.
This is something that happened to us. This is not a defect of us. And the more people understand that a lot of us are everyday people, that we're high performers, that are just trying to get back and be able to enjoy our family, enjoy quality of life. You guys are helping change that image that the NFL and others have portrayed, that we're all loose cannons that can't be controlled. And so thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And like I said, have fun, and we'll talk to you here shortly. I'm going to give you a little bit of a break after Saturday night. So you guys
I look
have
forward
a
to
good
that.
Thank you, Rico. All right.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great episode. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, review, do everything that the millennials and all the social media gurus do. And
you've gotten pretty good at this social media thing, and I think I've seen
No, because we got Redbird Media doing it for us.
Yes, Redbird Media is doing it for us now, but you made your own little AI cowboy thing where you were jumping around. These cartoons that they're doing.
Should I show the video I made?
No. I don't like some of that stuff. That it's realistic. It's
scary.
Yeah, it is scary. All right, stay alert, stay alive.
Thank you.
This podcast is for general information only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard and delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.